I'm here with my wonderful client, Kate Albert. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Gosh, it's been maybe 5 months since you finished
Yeah.
YCH.
Yep. About 5 months.
Yeah, okay. So for the folks, you're going to hear, for the folks who are like, oh, it's going to take so long to transition into my homecoming career, a lot can happen in 5 months. We'll hear all about that. Can you time travel us back to before your career homecoming? Just give a little context for what was going on in your life. What was going on in the stage of your career?
Yes. So I had been working in higher education administration for about 13 years, a little over 13 years when I saw the Facebook ad for Your Career Homecoming. So I had been really unhappy in the place I was working and the mostly the kind of work I was doing for probably. Like, sometimes I think about it and it's like 12 out of the 13 years. Like, it's so long to think about. It was basically my entire career. And so a few months before I started the program, I got a call, and this is the story I told in my intake. I got a call from my boss out of the blue because I worked remotely, and she said the university's done a market analysis for certain job titles, and yours was in it, and you're getting a 7% raise for not, it was just like a market readjustment. And, of course there was a part of me that was like, wow, like that's great. And I was already very well compensated, but I got off that phone call and I just like broke down. Um, because for years and years and years, I had wanted to leave and yet at that same time I was getting promotions and um it was very, very safe and secure. I never felt, except for during the pandemic where we all were sort of like, what's going to happen, I never felt like, oh, I could lose my job or my job's at risk, or it was really up to me if I was going to leave. And so when that phone call happened, I just felt like this was another sort of like nail in the coffin of like, oh, you're never really going to leave. You've wanted to leave, but you keep making more money, you keep staying, and there's a big part of me that was like, people will think you're so stupid for leaving all of this money on the table. And that was like really, really hard for me. It was affecting my really, really great marriage. And just like I was so um my self-confidence was really at an all-time low, even though I was more and farther and better in my career. I just felt like, I don't wanna be doing this, but I can't do anything else because I've only done this. And so those months, it was sort of felt serendipitous that that happened, and I thought, on the one hand, I thought, "Oh, no, I'm never gonna leave," but also I thought, "Well, if I'm crying getting a raise, then, like, I have to do something."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. And did you make any attempts on your own before YCH to figure out, well, what is it I can do instead? What did that look like?
Yeah. I think over the years, I had done reading books, taking, like, people I followed online might suggest, like, they might have a webinar or things like that. Um, I had actually, in the middle of after a few years of working in just administration, I got a graphic design certificate and thought, okay, this is my out, like, I'm gonna do graphic design. And so I did, at my job, get into a newer position that had, like, at the end, I was doing some graphic design and some communications, and it was like, there kept being those sort of things where it's like, "Okay, now I'll job search for a graphic design position." But it never really, like, I would look and it was just never like, "Oh, I don't really wanna do that." Like, I love graphic design, but I don't wanna go work for an agency. Um, so I had over the years had different ideas of, like, what I, could do feasibly with the experience and the education I had, but it never amounted to anything because I always did I was up until YCH, sincerely, it was like anything I ever wanted to do or dream about, it was like sometimes I didn't even vocalize it because in my head, it was like I was already talking myself out of it. Every time I'd get nervous about trying to find a job in that field or trying to do this, and so I would get the anxiety and then be like, "No, no, no, you're not gonna do that. You're gonna stay safe."
Yeah. Okay, and I'm very curious, once you just click on some Facebook ad, right? You're like, "Let me just," and you check out the webinar, you come to, like, what was it that resonated with you, or you were like, I think this is for me."
I remember thinking as I mean, I had done a ton of, like, free webinars or signed up for free webinars and not watched them or watched them halfway through, or if it was a live webinar, I felt like, oh, it was you weren't getting it was like an hour and you were like, what am I learning here?" And then it was, the hard sell to join something. So, I remember thinking, wow, even just this webinar is like it gave me, like, pretty tangible, like, takeaways, and it really resonated with me, the topics of, like, okay, these are the sort of, different blueprints or things that, like, people try or people think are, you either have to follow your passion or you have to work at a 9 to 5 until you retire kind of thing, and I remember that really, really resonating with me because it had felt impossible to, like, follow a passion, and just quit my job and do that, and so I remember it was I thought, "Well, what do I have to lose?" sort of thing with, going further in the program and just seeing if it was a right fit, and so I really appreciated that, I'll send the webinar to people and just be like, "Just watch this, like, this could," you could just see, is this enough to get you started, to get you motivated? But for me, I think it was really that, that I felt really energized by the concepts, and then I thought, "This is the right time. This is, like, now or never."
Yeah. Okay. So then you come join us,
Mhm.
and what happens once you get the help?
Yeah, so I remember at first thinking, "Oh, how is group coaching," which I know it's one-on-one and group coaching, but I remember thinking, "Oh, like, I don't know about group coaching." I had never really experienced it before, and I'm never nervous to, like, meet new people or, um, even online, but I remember thinking, like, I'm just not sure, like, what I'm gonna get out of it, is it going to be helpful that there's other people there and there's other people, that are at different stages in the program? And I remember my first one, I was like, "Oh, these people are talking about things I haven't heard and, like, I don't know," but I remember feeling so welcomed, and I don't know if it was in my first one, but probably my first or second one, I, like, cried. Which is, like, I mean, I cry a lot, but, I just remember feeling so in a way that, I think we've all most of us have been in some sort of Zoom or, like, large online, call in the last 5 years, and I've never really felt connected to people in that scenario until YCH, and, like, I really felt like, people are private messaging me or public chatting, their support and how they've been there, and it was like, oh, like, they actually have hearing these other experiences, and I remember I think I might have missed 2, but even though you don't have to go to all of them, I was like, "I'm gonna go to all of them. I'm gonna go to all these." It's so helpful. I remember being like, "Oh, I was so wrong to think it might be hard or confusing that people are farther along than me." It was so helpful to hear everyone's experience, and of course, maybe once a week, there'd be at least one person that was graduating, and it was so motivating and so affirming to be like, "No, this is gonna happen." And I should say, like, starting anything like this, whether I've paid for something, I've done it for free, it's always that seed of like, "Oh, I believe that this can work, but it's not gonna work for me. I don't have the confidence. I don't work hard enough. I don't try hard enough. I'm just gonna sit back on my laurels and stay doing what I've always done." So, it was a real difference, like, right from the beginning that I was like, "Oh, this can probably work for me."
Yeah. And what is it, do you think, that made it work for you? Like, was it something in the
Yeah.
curriculum or the coaching, or what made it go?
I really I I think it was probably the combination of, I think a lot of these things are either you're just doing curriculum, you're doing worksheets, you're doing the work on your own, and then you might go into like one or two large webinars where the person is just sort of like speaking to everyone. Um, so I really liked that there was this actual work to do, and the work in the curriculum really resonated with me. You talked a lot about in the program how there are things like personality quizzes or things that can sort of like help you to get know yourself, but never had I done work like this to really get to the root of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And I talked a lot about in the group calls how at first it could almost feel like selfish that I'm just like thinking about, "Oh, what do I wanna do and how do I wanna do it and why?" And it definitely helped me to talk through all of those things. It was like you're doing the coursework during the week, which I loved, and for the first time in my life, I almost probably never procrastinated, which I'm, like, so used to doing. I was looking forward to doing it and finding out more, and then, twice a week, I had this opportunity to talk through it and ask questions and get that, validation and support from you and Shannon and other people that are, going through the same thing, and so, to me, it was really a combination of the coursework and the very consistent coaching and, being among, the other homecomers.
Yeah. So you go through the whole shebang, which is, I mean, it's work, you know. What do you think is the biggest result or achievement or transformation at the end of all of this for you?
I think it's gotta be the fact that before this, I'm a creative person, I, like, have, big ideas or big passions and things, but actually, like, I realized I couldn't dream, like, in a real way about my future before this. I was at probably an all-time low with my self-confidence around being able to do hard things, like, in general, which to me, a hard thing was changing my career in my late 30s, um, giving up the safety and security of a golden handcuffs job, um, and it's wild to think, like, it's not like I'm a whole different person, but in some ways, it does feel that way because I feel like I've like, not to be corny, but, like, come into who I actually am, like, I feel more authentic, I feel like, um, I can dream, and it doesn't have to immediately be that cycle of, "Well, and now well, you're not really gonna do that. Don't get anxiety over, like, this change." Now I said it in the program, and I still think about it a lot that, um, I read Ina Garten's The Barefoot Contessa's, memoir, and she talks about being a person who sees obstacles as opportunities or challenges as opportunities, and I was like, "I wanna be like that." And I really felt empowered by you and everyone to be that and that mindset shift. There were multiple mindset shifts that it was like before this program, it was like I might have an aha moment reading a book or reading an article or seeing a video, but it was always back to sort of like, the beginning. It never felt like I really like got a change in my mindset actually. And I feel like through this program, I'm just able to see opportunities as or obstacles as opportunities, truly challenges. I I in my new profession that I'm pursuing, I fail a lot because it takes a lot of, testing and trying, and now, like, every time when those things happen, I problem solve and I figure it out, and it's like, "Wow, a year ago, I didn't think I could do anything like that."
Yeah. And I think that's, I mean, such a testament to you really digging in and doing the work. There's one thing to intellectually be like, every, challenge is an opportunity. And it's another thing to actually show up day to day like that
Mhm.
and to see a challenge and work through instead of see a challenge and just bail.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of your new work, would you tell us about your homecoming career?
Yes. So, I was really, sort of between 2 at the end, And, transparently, my homecoming career at the end was to host creative retreats, and I really felt pulled to be in community with other people. That was, like, a huge part of my work and the work that I w the in doing the curriculum, realized that that was really, really important to me to be in community with other people. And when I started this is like a great example of, like, coming up against obstacles and not just being like, "Okay, well, I'm not gonna do it." Because that is still a huge dream of mine to do, and I still felt this, like, really big pull to do the bakery. The other option was to have a bakery, but I had felt really like, I don't really wanna have a retail space, I don't wanna have to staff, those are the kind of things I don't wanna have to do, and before, it felt like, well, if you wanna make any money doing X, you have to do it this way, and so I thought while I'm doing brainstorming and dreaming, I was still working at my 9 to 5. I was like, "I'm gonna do a cottage bakery out of my house," which is, legal in, I think, all 50 states, but in my state, there are very, clear rules about what you can and can't do, and I thought, "Well, I'll just try it," I'll just do it as I'm doing these other things, and I really the reason there was 2 reasons I felt that way. One, I was just feeling like that's what I wanted to do, and I now felt, like, empowered to follow. I didn't feel like, "Oh, that's just some silly dream." It's like, "No, if this is what I want, I can trust myself." And with the creativity retreats, I really felt like I want to explore some creative pursuits and see how best I wanna show up for people in these retreats. And I already had some good ideas, I think, about how I wanted to have them, and I talk to people all the time about it, and they really think it's a great idea. And right now, I think pursuing the bakery and getting my, like, sort of after 14 years of working in you could call it sort of corporate America, um, I just wanna, like, get my hands in something and do something creative, and I really do feel like I don't know what the outcome is, but I sort of have this intuition now that what I'm doing now is going to inform what I do later.
Absolutely. And that is part of the beauty of this is we don't
Mhm.
have to narrow everything down to like, here's my one dream and my one goal, and I can only do this one thing. You can have more than one dream. You can't do everything all at one time anyway. So we can sequence the order you're going to do these things in.
Yeah,
And it doesn't have to be rigid. There's a difference between having direction, which you have. And I love that you said, I can trust myself,
yeah,
which is huge. There's a difference between having that presence and direction and clarity and having like, here's my rigid 10-year plan where I can't deviate or now I have failed.
yeah, yeah,
And even just the way the ease and authority with which you speak about all of this is
mhm,
just night and day from when we first met.
yeah.
And so in case that hasn't sunk in with you, I want to mirror that back because it's really wonderful
Thank you.
to just see you habitate this and navigate this. It feels right on you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I know that like, in a way before this, I felt like not that there was no one else like me, but that a lot of the rhetoric around this kind of work was like, I'm working so hard and I'm struggling and this and that, and I feel like I wanna be an example to people who maybe felt more like me, where it was like, I didn't feel like I was working all that hard. I didn't feel like I was grinding. I felt really safe, and that can also be really, um, entrapping in a different way. And so I'm really proud of myself because I came from something that's like I could have worked there my whole entire life, and, people do. And so I'm just really obviously, I'm nervous and I don't know what the future is, but it's, like, kinda nice that for the first time in 14 years, I don't know what my life's gonna look like in a year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think to your point, there's nothing wrong with safety,
mhm.
but it's when does the safety start to become a limitation? When does it feel like a trap instead of a protection?
Yes.
And what are we protecting you from?
Yeah.
It's like you um, You seem to be doing quite well. Okay, I guess to kind of wrap us up here, what would you say to someone who's like, "Ooh, I saw this Facebook ad and I watched this webinar." What would you say to someone who's just kind of discovering us and trying to
Yeah.
figure things out?
I would say that it's okay to have, if you're jaded or, you feel like maybe you've seen this all before, which is sort of how I felt. It was like, this is just one example of maybe hundreds of programs that, purport to do this kind of work. And I would just encourage you to take a leap of faith because I mean, it's anything I say, I feel like is gonna be so corny, but like this program I'm gonna cry. This program changed my life and, maybe like in other things, maybe you've seen that before. People have said, "Oh, this changed my life," but, um, it changed my life. I've seen it change a lot of people's lives, and it really does feel different. The program itself feels different. I feel different than when I've tried other things, and I really encourage people to just take a leap and see if it's the right fit for you because it certainly was for me.
Yeah. Well, it's just been a delight to work with you and, to keep an eye on you as you go build your thing and yeah, put the pieces together. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, the webinar that Kate keeps referring to, it's at ychworkshop.com. Check it out. It's pretty short, but it is value packed. There is no, long founder life story leading up, like you said. It is stuff you haven't heard before. So check it out.
Mhm.
Thanks, Kate.
Thanks.